Hi everyone, welcome to my review of Christopher Nolan's Memento from the year 2000. So yes, once again we are here with a Nolan review, and here it is on Blu-ray. Yes, such an interesting film here, and this time I must say, not a spoilers review. But there is, there's kind of this thing. I think possibly, if you watch this review, there's potential spoilers or kind of ideas that could spark up, could be potential spoilers. So I'd say, if you want to be 100% sure, that you won't get anything spoiled, then watch this film and then come back to this review. But I'll try my best not to give away any spoilers. It's a very hard film to talk about this actually. I'm sure we'll understand without actually saying anything, that could lead with kind of to an idea, to an interpretation of the film. So yes, but I will try my best not to actually this time round get into spoilers. But yes, such an interesting film this, and I watched this 2 years ago for the first time. This is my second watch. It's my first rewatch of the film, and I watched it 2017 of course. Around the time I watched The Prestige as well for the first time, and wow, I love that film so much now. And yes, this film, I'd heard about it for many years, as you kind of do. It's a film that you hear about quite a lot. Very popular film. It is often counted, among his best films. Actually, some actually say that it's kind of, it could be his best film. People go as far as to say that, and yes, just I was really looking forward to picking this up and watching the film, of course, 2 years ago, and of course I did. And once again, I must say, it's another masterpiece. I must say that, and it's just a stunning film. This, it blew me away, and I thought, yes, this is quite a genius film, actually. Just this, the narrative alone, the way he's kind of designed this film, the way it's constructed, non-linear, of course, but I think it's doing something that's not, again, it's not a flashy, for the sake of it kind of thing. Although it's certainly, it's attempting to be unique, yes, but it's doing something that is actually so pivotal to the story, in revealing this character, and actually in tune with the his state of mind. The fractured mind, of course, of Leonard, our protagonist, and the way he's trying to piece together this, and he's suffering from this illness, short-term memory loss, and he can't remember things since this kind of event. As we're told, his wife, of course, brutally raped and murdered. And you see at the beginning of the film a certain thing that happens, and then there's two different kind of, as we know, two different ways this film is going. The black and white scenes, kind of chronological, and then the color scenes are kind of each scene is kind of going backwards, kind of thing, and until at the end, these two timelines that are constantly moving, whichever way they're moving, meet to create the ending, and that is when finally you get the entire story, if you will, and then it becomes clear. Maybe not for some. It's kind of a very complex film, actually. In many regards, and I can understand some people will still not quite get the film, even in the end. But that's when it does piece together, as we say, and that's when the whole thing can then be, kind of interpreted fully. And it's really stunning. This film, another masterpiece, as I say, and. Yes, I was just blown away, really, the first time I saw this, and I must say, personally, it's not one of my, technically one of my favourite Nolan films, although I think it's a masterpiece. I don't think, I have to be honest, I don't quite count it, up there with his very best, or even, his top five, but, that doesn't really say much, because he's made so many great films. He's such a great filmmaker, in my opinion, a master filmmaker, that to say this is not one of my favourite films from him, but it's a masterpiece, kind of sums that up. It really is a stunning film, a great thriller, genius in its design, the acting, of course. Guy Pearce, especially in this film, is stunning. He really gives a wonderful performance. I love the humanity to this film. I love how it kind of has this dreamy effect at times. It's kind of this fractured, jarring feel at times. To the picture, which is just so perfect. The narrative is kind of jarring. It's kind of very, unstable. But it's not a film that's deliberately confusing. It's going in the ways where you can kind of follow. It is very. It's kind of jarring at times. The editing plays a real hand in that, and I think in what it's going for, it's really genius. This the way he does this. Christopher Nolan writing, of course, once again, and of course directed in this film, and based on a kind of stuff from his brother Jonathan Nolan. Really, really stunning, this film, and yes, as I say, that opening scene kind of sets this mystery up. It's so amazing how it goes, the gun, everything. It goes in kind of backwards. It's just wow. What a way to open the film, and yes, from then on we're learning what's happened, and kind of uncovering the pieces. Just as our protagonist is, it's kind of a participation film in that sense, and it's kind of, as I say, it's not a film that's just dealing with different ways to kind of present a plot, to kind of tell a narrative. It's something that is revealing more about this character and how kind of the themes of this film. I think, without spoiling it too much, is one of them is finding meaning in life. That's a real thing you should hold on to with this film. It's something that really deals with this wonderfully, and what this the conclusion it comes to, I think is stunning in that regard, and what it kind of says there, and it's kind of, it also, generally, a kind of a sense of paranoia, kind of obsession in the film. This kind of claustrophobic feeling at times, in the hotel room, for example, a lot of the film, and it's something that is just so on edge, constantly, and it's of course there's this character of Sammy, this case that's going on as well in the black and white scenes, and there. That's the kind of thing that is, of course, has, as we know straight away, has a connection to this kind of main story, of course, this main narrative, very vital kind of stuff there, and that's also just so investing, and so, once again, so human. This is a really, really wonderful film, I think, how it's kind of dealing with, in general, mental illness, and just how far people will go and stuff, and this feeling of obsession and stuff for Guy Pearce, for example, to figure out what happened here to his wife, and of course the opening is kind of maybe it could confuse you and stuff, and it kind of is there to jar you, that opening scene, of course, and then we branch off, and then we figure out things simultaneously, of course, as we know, going backwards and forwards. It's so good, and when they meet in the middle, of course, at the very end, it's just a way to kind of bring this together, and to kind of to keep constantly building momentum, to figure out more things, reveal more about the character. You've also got this kind of you could say subplot, although it's kind of weird to say a subplot, is in this film, because there's very, very few kind of threads, you could say, and it's mainly focused. It's very, very contained, and very few characters in the film. But Natalie, with her, it's kind of a subplot, you could say, and that's very, very interesting there as well. I love this whole kind of relationship. It's very complex, and once again, it goes in different directions, and very surprising. This is a film that is not predictable at all. It's constantly kind of doing things that are kind of very surprising, and her character, a mystery as well, and of course you've got Teddy, played by Joe Pantoliano, and he is great in the film, and of course Natalie's played by Carrie-Anne Moss. The other film I've seen, of her is The Matrix, of course, and yes, she is great in this film. Really, really great performance. Loved her character. Very compelling stuff, and of course Teddy. It's just so enjoyable in the film. Very small amount of characters here, but the characters that are, in this film, are just so compelling, and how they do have a complete purpose. They're not just random characters at all. This is the thing about Nolan films. There's always something, for a reason, we should say. Nothing sidetracking, I don't feel, with the bulk of his films, and just there was always something that is behind a character, or a scene, for example, and it's just, in this film, there's not a wasted moment. This really is just constantly, every scene has a purpose. It's all, kind of revealing more about a character, about the plots, revealing more of the mystery, and then, kind of opening up more questions, we could say, as the film goes on. I think in the final act, or at least maybe the last 40 minutes, is when it kind of starts opening up a bit more, and actually, I do enjoy the film the more it goes on. Certainly after the first half an hour, it really comes into its own, I feel. But yes, the final sort of half an hour or so is just, it's kind of more kind of questions you get, kind of within this film, and there's things that do really surprise me. There's a couple of things, of course, that I did kind of forget, and rewatching the film, I was kind of shocked again, actually. And yes, it's a film that, of course, it's quite hard to remember the exact ordering of different events. I feel, on this rewatch, it's interesting. It's kind of stuff I completely forgot the exact ordering of, because it's a very kind of fractured experience, which is intended to be. And I think just in that sense, it's just genius in its kind of design, and the way that the narrative unfolds. And just even though it's non-linear, it's not just for the sake of it. It really is just there's something constantly, there's always something that means something. It's not for no reason. This is a Christopher Nolan film, and once again, just delivering an absolute masterpiece. There's just so much going on in this film, and I just love how it specifically kind of deals with memory, of course, and there's loads of different themes, of course, but memory and kind of how you're recollecting this, and how you're kind of your thought process, as we know. And it's just a film, like Inception. Christopher Nolan really does, he's always delivering things that are psychologically, investing in that sense, something you can relate to, and get involved in, and kind of. There's always a fascination, for example, with dreams. Inception does this, and deals with that. And this is, our memory, of course, and it's just so investing, and how kind of Guy Pearce is just a great performance here that he's giving. It's just so authentic, and I'm able to get fully invested and wrapped up in this film, and kind of participate, in kind of figuring out things, and kind of revealing what's happened, and just his character in general. And there's also something really interesting in this film, how it's dealing with how people use each other, manipulate. It's very, very interesting there, and very dark. This is a very dark film at times, and it's got quite a twisted feel, I feel, throughout this film. There's quite a lot of moments, actually, especially in the second half, that's quite disturbing, I think. Personally, I do find it quite dark film. I just think it's very daring, and I think, yes, the reason why this is one of the most popular films is because it's just simply wonderful storytelling. This is just, it may be non-linear. That's not really too important. The fact is, what he's trying to do, he is executing it with such confidence, Christopher Nolan, with such conviction, and just always an emotional response with all of the different scenes. It's not just to be flashy, as I say. It's not just to kind of go, oh, look at this. It is something that's revealing more about characters, and truth. It's dealing with this, a real big theme in the film, and it's saying something about humanity, and really such an investing film. The reason it isn't, actually personally my plus tiers is because simply I don't love it as much as my plus tier films. It's not something that goes for me way into the heights of cinema, like The Dark Knight, but it is among my favourite films, and certainly modern films. I think it's just a stunning piece of cinema. I'm not going to give it a plus tier, but I will give it full marks, of course. This is a mind-blowing film, and yes, of course it gets 100%. No doubt, this is a masterpiece. Just not one that does get into my plus tiers. It doesn't mean as much to me as as kind of as films into them plus tiers, and even yes, I do personally prefer something like The Prestige, actually. Inception, of course, Interstellar, or the ones I've reviewed, most of them. But that's not to kind of dismiss this film at all. I just care more about them films. I'm more, have more fun with them films. I think they're better, pieces of cinema. Personally, everyone has their own opinions, and I just think it doesn't quite, kind of elevate, or kind of move me perhaps, or kind of enthrall me, from start to finish like those films do. But I do count it as one of his masterpieces. Christopher Nolan just, it is a genius, and this film is a wonderful piece of cinema. That's the thing to know. It's stunning, and just so impressive. But that's not all it has. It's something that it's something you really, at least many people clearly connect to. It's something that's just going in, dealing with truths, and how our memory works, and it's something that mental illness in general, as well. Kind of this really, really dark edge that it has, and kind of course, just it's something that I love, of course, how he has to constantly of course, Leonard write things down, or of course get tattoos. That is one of the things in the plot where, yes, to kind of remember things because he's got a short-term memory loss. And genius stuff here. I love how it's kind of so on edge. There's a suspense to that, and even in the way at times he has to quickly write this down, and you're thinking hopefully he just gets it written down so he does remember it, and you can kind of lead to the next clue, for example. It's so enthralling, this film, and I just love it personally. It's not a film that everyone maybe will love. It's quite a kind of, well, it's a challenging film. It's very kind of a dark film at times, very claustrophobic maybe, and one that it's very disjointed. But I think that's one of the strengths of the film. Many strengths, of course. There is a fractured experience. It's this character, of course, that's because of that. Because he is suffering from this memory loss, and he's trying to recollect what's happened, and in order to kind of move forward. And of course, I just love the opening as well, how it kind of sets this dark tone and jars you. It's a shocking film actually, and it's one that is constantly unfolding for us to kind of learn more about the character, other different characters, humanity in general, and just what has happened. That's the kind of thing. And when it does come to a close, both these narratives meet, and it's really wonderful when it does. And it's kind of a very complex film. This, and what it's saying, the themes, how people use each other, for example, identity as well as another thing, of course, and just getting into this psychological experience that is very extremely unique. Never seen a film like this, and that's something to praise as well. And I think it is a masterpiece. The characters, the narrative overall, the way this film is shot and edited is stunning, and just the script as well. Really meaningful kind of lines of dialogue in this that you can kind of just take and kind of relate to. I feel really wonderful script. Expect no less from a Christopher Nolan film. Yes, just a stunning film, from start to finish, and not one of my favourites, from Nolan personally, but it is one of his masterpieces. So there you go. It's something to kind of it sums it up. This guy is a genius, and this is one of his, I think, genius films. I think it's a stunning work, and yes, a masterpiece for me, certainly so. And of course, if you haven't seen the film, I highly recommend it. Of course, Blu-ray is the way to go. Just a stunning film, and wonderful visuals. Of course, I love, of course, how he's using black and white. It really gets me excited, and the way he's kind of, it's kind of clear. Of course, it's all there in that sense. It's just how you interpret the film, and how you kind of follow along with it, kind of thing. And because it is separated, the black and white going forward, and then of course the colour, going backwards, and then meeting, of course, at the end of the film. So it's something that's designed, maybe very precisely, but of course it can be complex and disjointed. But it's just such an experience, so much fun to kind of unravel, of course. And yes, just the conclusion it comes to, I feel, is really moving in my opinion, and quite shocking, of course. And yes, just a wonderful film, a masterpiece for me, quite easily, and yes, among my favourite films, certainly of the century. And yes, highly recommend this film, everyone. It really is stunning. Of course, most people have seen this film, and of course, if you have, tell me your thoughts in the comments. It'd be great to discuss this film, as always. Kind of discuss Christopher Nolan. Just wow, what a fascinating kind of and masterful director, in my opinion. He really is one of the, without him, certainly the last, kind of couple of decades would not have been, as good cinema. He's one of them directors that really are just, really wowing me, kind of at the moment. Of course, Dunkirk I haven't seen. I've ordered that on 4K actually, very recently. But yes, so that'll probably be the next one that I review. Looking forward to that, in some regards. And yes, Memento, a stunning masterwork in my opinion. I love this film, and yes, thanks for watching my review.